I got a project right here. It's about a good friend of mine by the name of Corey Moore. Corey Moore got a long history and a track record of battling with the United States government. And I'm not gonna really touch on all of his battles and struggles against the United States government, but he has a case, and this case is actually, according to some legal experts, it's only one of two that have ever happened in American jurisprudence history. Corey was tried 4 times for a specific crime, and 4 hung juries. I mean, I think it cost the United States government over $1 million. This young kid from Southeast DC at the time, but nevertheless, check it out and keep it honest with me. Let me know if you like this new style of what I just produced with this documentary, this mini documentary on Corey Moore. Free to real.
Streets of Washington, D.C. have always held stories. Tales of triumph and tragedy, stories whispered on street corners and etched into the city's soul. In the early 1990s, a new story emerged. This one would grip the nation. This was the story of Corey Moore. Born and raised in the heart of D.C., Corey was no stranger to the city's rhythms. But his life would take a dramatic turn. He would become entangled in a legal battle that seemed ripped from the pages of a John Grisham thriller. The fight of his life awaited. The American justice system, with its scales and blindfolded lady, promises fairness. It vows to protect the innocent and punish the guilty. But what happens when the scales tip? What happens when doubt clouds a case? Corey's story would put these questions to the test in a most dramatic fashion. The 1990s dawned in Washington, D.C. with a mix of hope and uncertainty. The city, like the nation, grappled with social and economic challenges. The crack epidemic cast a long shadow, fueling crime rates and straining communities. The war on drugs, launched with noble intentions, had unintended consequences, disproportionately impacting black communities like those in D.C. The criminal justice system, designed to be a beacon of fairness, often felt like a labyrinth of despair. Plea bargains became the norm, offering a way out, but often leaving the question of guilt unanswered. Mandatory minimum sentencing laws, intended to be tough on crime, sometimes resulted in harsh penalties that seemed at odds with the offences committed. Against this backdrop, Corey Moore's story began to unfold. His case was not isolated. It was intertwined with the larger narrative of the city and the times. It reflected the fears, the prejudices, and the systemic issues that permeated the legal landscape. The justice system, designed to protect, sometimes felt like a force of oppression. The presumption of innocence, a cornerstone of American law, seemed increasingly fragile. Corey's case would test these principles, pushing them to their very limits. Washington, D.C. in the early 1990s was a city on edge. The crack epidemic had ravaged neighborhoods, leaving behind a trail of addiction and violence. The murder rate soared, making the nation's capital one of the most dangerous cities in America. Fear became a constant companion for many residents. The media, hungry for stories that captured the city's anxieties, often focused on crime. Headlines screamed of drug busts, shootings, and gang violence. The narrative of a city under siege took hold, shaping public perception and influencing policy decisions. In this climate of fear, young black men like Corey Moore were often viewed with suspicion. The stereotype of the super predator, a term used by some criminologists to describe young people involved in violent crime, gained traction. This perception fueled racial profiling and contributed to the mass incarceration of black men. Corey's story unfolded against this backdrop of social unrest and racial tension. His case was not just about the specific charges against him. It was about the broader societal forces that shaped his fate and the fate of countless others caught in the crosshairs of the criminal justice system. The details of the accusations against Corey Moore remain shrouded in a cloud of legal complexities and conflicting accounts. What is clear is that he found himself at the center of a serious criminal investigation. The charges were grave, carrying the weight of significant prison time. The prosecution alleged that Corey was involved in a crime that shook the city. They painted a picture of a young man consumed by the streets, caught up in a world of violence and lawlessness. They presented their case with confidence, convinced of his guilt. For Corey, the accusations were a nightmare come true. He had always maintained his innocence, but now he faced an uphill battle. The justice system, designed to be impartial, can sometimes feel like an adversarial system, pitting the accused against the full weight of the government. As the investigation unfolded and the charges were filed, Corey's life was turned upside down. He faced the prospect of a lengthy trial, the uncertainty of a jury's verdict, and the very real possibility of losing his freedom. His fight for justice was about to begin. Section 1. The Court of Public Opinion. The American justice system prides itself on the principle of innocent until proven guilty. But in the court of public opinion, the lines can blur. Corey's case, with its serious allegations, quickly became a media sensation. Newspapers splashed his name across headlines. Television crews camped outside the courthouse, eager for any snippet of information, any glimpse of the young man at the center of the storm. Public fascination with crime stories is nothing new. The drama, the intrigue, the quest for justice, these elements tap into something primal within us. But in Corey's case, the media coverage went beyond mere reporting. It often veered into speculation, shaping the narrative before the jury had even been selected. For Corey and his defense team, the pervasive media attention was a double-edged sword. On the one hand, it brought national attention to the case, raising questions about the prosecution's motives and tactics. On the other hand, it created an environment in which it was difficult to separate fact from fiction, presumption of innocence from the presumption of guilt. The court of public opinion, unlike a court of law, is not bound by rules of evidence or standards of proof. Opinions are formed quickly, often based on incomplete information or emotional responses. Corey, once an ordinary young man from DC, found himself transformed into a symbol, a lightning rod for societal anxieties about crime and punishment, the weight of doubt. The courtroom was a stage, a battleground where the prosecution and defense would present their cases. The stakes were high. Corey's freedom, his reputation, his very future hung in the balance. The jury, a cross-section of Washington, D.C. residents, listened intently as the evidence was presented, the arguments made, and the witnesses questioned. The prosecution, armed with the resources of the government, presented a compelling case. They meticulously laid out their theory of the crime, weaving together witness testimony, forensic evidence, and circumstantial details. Their goal was clear: to convince the jury, beyond a reasonable doubt, of Corey's guilt. The defense team fought back with equal vigor. They challenged the prosecution's narrative at every turn, highlighting inconsistencies, raising questions about the reliability of witnesses, and emphasizing the lack of direct evidence linking Corey to the crime. Their message was simple: the government had not met its burden of proof. As the trial progressed, the tension in the courtroom was palpable. The weight of the evidence, the gravity of the charges, the uncertainty of the outcome, all of it hung heavy in the air. And then, after days of deliberation, the jury returned with its verdict, deadlocked. They could not reach a unanimous decision. A mistrial was declared. One mistrial is unusual enough, a sign that the evidence is not clear-cut, that doubt lingers in the minds of the jurors. But in Corey Moore's case, the unthinkable happened. Not one, not two, but 3 more trials ended in hung juries. 4 times the government had put Corey on trial, and 4 times they had failed to secure a conviction. The repeated mistrials sent shockwaves through the legal community and beyond. Legal experts were baffled, pointing out the rarity of such an occurrence. The case became a national news story, with commentators debating the implications for the justice system, the role of race in jury deliberations, and the very nature of justice itself. For Corey, the mistrials were a bittersweet victory. While he remained free from a conviction, he was still entangled in the legal system, his life on hold, his future uncertain. The emotional toll was immense, the weight of the accusations constantly looming over him. The government, faced with the unprecedented outcome of 4 hung juries, faced a dilemma. Should they continue to pursue Corey Moore, hoping that the 5th time would be the charm? Or should they acknowledge the inability to secure a conviction and move on? The decision they made would have profound consequences, not just for Corey, but for the very idea of justice in America. The prosecution, convinced of his guilt, saw the mistrials as mere setbacks, glitches in the system rather than a reflection on the merits of their case. For Corey and his legal team, the government's persistence was both baffling and infuriating. It felt personal, as if they were being targeted, punished for daring to challenge the system. Each new trial brought with it a fresh wave of anxiety, a reminder that their ordeal was far from over. The relentless pursuit of Corey Moore raised troubling questions about the nature of justice in America. Was the government so focused on securing a conviction, on winning at all costs, that they had lost sight of the principle of fairness? Was this a case of prosecutorial overreach, of the government using its vast resources to crush an individual they believed to be guilty, regardless of the evidence? Corey's case became a flashpoint in a larger debate about the power of the state, the rights of the accused, and the delicate balance between law and order, justice and fairness. As the legal battle raged on, it exposed the fault lines in the American legal system, revealing the potential for both abuse and resilience. Where is the evidence? At the heart of Corey Moore's case was a fundamental question. Where was the evidence? 4 juries had considered the charges against him, and 4 times they had been unable to reach a unanimous verdict. The prosecution had presented their case, but each time doubt lingered. The missing piece of the puzzle, the smoking gun, the irrefutable proof, it was never found. The absence of substantial evidence was a constant source of frustration for Corey and his defense team. They pointed to it repeatedly, arguing that the government's case was built on speculation, on innuendo, on the assumption of guilt rather than the proof of it. The prosecution, however, maintained that the evidence, while circumstantial, was strong enough to warrant a conviction. They argued that the totality of the circumstances, the web of connections, the timing of events, all of it pointed to Corey Moore's guilt. The battle over evidence in Corey's case reflected a larger tension within the criminal justice system. On the one hand, the standard of beyond a reasonable doubt is meant to protect the innocent, to ensure that only those who are clearly and convincingly guilty are convicted. On the other hand, the pursuit of justice sometimes relies on circumstantial evidence, on piecing together a puzzle without all the pieces. Corey Moore's case did not unfold in a vacuum. It played out on the streets of Washington, D.C., in the homes and hearts of its residents. And as the trials dragged on, the city found itself increasingly divided. Opinions were formed, sides were taken, and the case became a lightning rod for larger societal debates about race, justice, and the role of law enforcement. For some, Corey Moore was a victim of circumstance, a young black man caught in the crosshairs of a system that too often criminalized poverty and race. They saw his case as emblematic of a broken system, one in which the scales of justice were tipped against the marginalized and the disadvantaged. For others, Corey Moore was a dangerous criminal who had managed to evade justice time and time again. Corey Moore's case, once a local news story, had become a mirror reflecting back the complexities and contradictions of the nation itself. While the legal battle raged on, Corey Moore's life was on hold. He was free from a conviction, yes, but he was not truly free. The cloud of suspicion hung over him, the accusations constantly trailing him. The emotional, financial, and social costs of his ordeal were immeasurable. Each trial took its toll. The pressure of facing a jury, the scrutiny of the media, the uncertainty of the outcome, it all weighed heavily on Corey and his loved ones. The justice system, designed to protect the innocent, can sometimes feel like a crucible, testing the limits of human endurance. The financial burden was immense, legal fees mounted, and then there was the social stigma. Even without a conviction, Corey Moore's name was forever linked to the charges against him. The presumption of innocence, so easily eroded in the court of public opinion, proved difficult to reclaim. He faced suspicion, judgment, and the constant fear that he was being watched, that his every move was being scrutinized. From the outset, Corey Moore's legal battle unfolded under the harsh glare of the media spotlight. The case, with its twists and turns, its dramatic courtroom showdowns, and its unprecedented string of mistrials, was tailor-made for the 24-hour news cycle. Cameras crowded the courthouse steps, microphones thrust towards anyone even remotely connected to the case. The media's fascination with crime stories is nothing new. The public's appetite for tales of justice, intrigue, and the battle between good and evil is insatiable. Corey's case, however, transcended the typical crime saga. It became a symbol, a microcosm of the larger societal anxieties brewing in 1990s America. Night after night, Corey's face flickered across television screens, his name emblazoned on newspaper front pages. The narrative, however, often lacked nuance. The presumption of innocence, a cornerstone of the American legal system, seemed to fade under the relentless scrutiny. The line between reporting the facts and shaping public perception became increasingly blurred. For Corey and his family, the media attention was a double-edged sword. On one hand, it brought national attention to the case, raising questions about the prosecution's tactics and the possibility of injustice. On the other hand, it felt invasive, a constant reminder that their private pain was being laid bare for public consumption. Section 2. Shaping the narrative. The media's role in Corey Moore's case extended far beyond simply reporting the facts. With each news report, each opinion piece, each televised debate, the media played a powerful role in shaping the narrative surrounding the case. Consciously or unconsciously, they influenced public perception, coloring the lens through which America viewed Corey Moore. The language used by the media was often loaded with implicit bias. Words like alleged, suspect, and accused were frequently used to describe Corey, even though he had not been convicted of any crime. Headlines screamed of sensational developments and shocking revelations, further fueling the public's appetite for a juicy story. Images, too, played a powerful role in shaping perception. Photos of Corey, often taken in the somber setting of the courtroom, were splashed across newspapers and television screens. These images, devoid of context, often conveyed a sense of guilt or suspicion, even if unintentionally. The media's coverage of Corey's case highlighted a fundamental tension in a society that values both freedom of the press and the right to a fair trial. While the media plays a crucial role in holding power to account and informing the public, its influence can sometimes come at a cost, particularly for those caught in the crosshairs of the justice system. Section 3. Beyond the headlines. Lost in the media frenzy, often overlooked in the rush to judgment, was the human toll of Corey Moore's legal battle. Behind the headlines, beyond the courtroom drama, was a young man grappling with the weight of accusations, the uncertainty of his future, and the realization that his life would never be the same. Corey Moore's story serves as a stark reminder that behind every headline, every courtroom saga, every media spectacle, there are real people with real lives. The pursuit of justice, as crucial as it is, should never come at the expense of compassion, empathy, and the recognition that even in the face of accusations, every individual deserves to be treated with dignity and respect. The color of justice. Corey Moore's case, while unique in its specifics, unfolded against a backdrop of deeply ingrained racial disparities within the American justice system. His story, like countless others, forced the nation to confront an uncomfortable truth. Justice, too often, was not colorblind. From the initial encounter with law enforcement to the halls of justice themselves, the system seemed to operate with a different set of rules for people of color, particularly black men. The war on drugs, launched with noble intentions, had morphed into a system that disproportionately targeted and incarcerated black communities. Statistics painted a grim picture. Black men were more likely to be stopped and searched by police, more likely to be arrested for drug offenses, and more likely to receive harsher sentences than their white counterparts, even when charged with similar crimes. The presumption of innocence, so fundamental to American jurisprudence, seemed to hold less weight when the accused was black. Corey Moore's case, with its repeated mistrials and the government's relentless pursuit, despite the lack of a conviction, became a lightning rod for discussions about race and justice. Section 2. A System on Trial. Corey Moore's journey through the legal system was not just a personal ordeal, it was a searing indictment of a system often out of balance. His case exposed the flaws, the biases, and the potential for abuse that existed within the very institutions designed to uphold justice. The power of the prosecution was on full display. With vast resources at their disposal, they could investigate, indict, and retry a case multiple times, even in the face of repeated hung juries. The defense, often outmatched and outmaneuvered, faced an uphill battle. The presumption of innocence, while enshrined in law, seemed fragile in practice. The media's coverage, often sensationalized and lacking nuance, could easily sway public opinion, creating an environment in which the accused was presumed guilty until proven innocent. The court of public opinion, unlike a court of law, was not bound by rules of evidence or burdens of proof. Corey Moore's case, with its dramatic twists and turns, its legal battles, and its unresolved ending, served as a stark reminder that the pursuit of justice is not always straightforward, that the system is flawed, and that even in America, the land of the free, the fight for freedom can be long and arduous. Corey Moore's story, though rooted in the turbulent decade of the 1990s, continues to resonate in the present day. His case, with its themes of racial injustice, prosecutorial overreach, and the power of media narratives, has found new life in an era marked by a renewed focus on criminal justice reform and a national reckoning with systemic racism. The Black Lives Matter movement, sparked by the deaths of Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown, Eric Garner, and countless other black men and women at the hands of law enforcement, has brought renewed attention to the racial disparities that plague the criminal justice system. Corey Moore's case, though predating these tragic events by decades, serves as a chilling reminder that the struggle for justice is ongoing. The issue of mass incarceration, fueled by harsh sentencing laws and a tough-on-crime mentality, has also gained traction in recent years. Corey Moore's case, with its focus on the government's relentless pursuit of a conviction despite the lack of a clear-cut case, highlights the human cost of this approach to justice. Corey Moore's story, though ultimately unresolved, serves as a powerful call to action. It challenges us to confront the systemic inequalities within the justice system, to demand accountability from those in power, and to never stop fighting for a more just and equitable society for all. Corey Moore's story does not have a neat ending. It does not culminate in a triumphant courtroom victory or a clear-cut resolution. Instead, it lingers, a tapestry of unanswered questions and lingering doubts. His case, a symbol of the complexities and contradictions of the American justice system, continues to spark debate and introspection. Did the system fail Corey Moore? Did the relentless pursuit of a conviction, even in the face of repeated mistrials, overshadow the presumption of innocence? Was he a victim of circumstance, a casualty of the war on drugs and the racial disparities that plagued the justice system? Or were there truths left unsaid, pieces of the puzzle that remain hidden? These questions are not merely academic. They strike at the heart of what it means to live in a society governed by the rule of law, a society that prides itself on fairness and justice for all. Corey Moore's case, a stark reminder that the pursuit of justice is not always straightforward, compels us to confront these questions head-on. We are left to grapple with the implications of a system that can leave both the accused and the public searching for answers. A system where the line between justice and vengeance can become blurred. Corey's story is a stark reminder that the pursuit of justice is a journey, not a destination. Though Corey Moore's legal battles may be over, his story continues to resonate. It serves as a powerful reminder that the fight for justice is an ongoing process, a journey that requires constant vigilance, unwavering commitment, and a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths. His case, a microcosm of the larger struggle for civil rights and equal justice under the law, highlights the importance of reforming a system that too often disproportionately impacts marginalized communities. It underscores the need for transparency, accountability, and a commitment to ensuring that every individual, regardless of race, socioeconomic status, or the nature of the accusations against them, is treated fairly and justly under the law. Corey Moore's story is a call to action, an invitation to engage in the ongoing dialogue about race, justice, and the role of the legal system in a democratic society. It challenges us to examine our own biases, to hold our elected officials accountable, and to demand a system that truly lives up to its ideals. In the pursuit of justice, there is no finish line. It is a journey we must all undertake together with courage, compassion, and an unwavering commitment to creating a more just and equitable society for all.